we're tackling one of the most persistent historical myths, the claim that the Moors, who conquered Spain in 711 AD, were a monolithic, unified black race establishing a purely African empire in Europe. This simplification ignores the fact that the people of Al-Andalus were a diverse, multi-ethnic society. The term Moors, Moros, was a broad European label for a culture built by indigenous Iberians, Arabs, and Berbers. The reality is a rich, integrated civilization, where ethnicity blurred under a shared Islamic culture. We will now prove this using primary sources, geopolitical history, contemporary depictions, and DNA. First, let's define Moor. The term comes from the Latin Moris, used by the Romans to describe the inhabitants of Mauritania, modern Morocco and Algeria. It is fundamentally a geographic term. Later, in medieval Europe, it became a blanket term for the Muslim populations of Al-Andalus, Arabs, Berbers, and local converts. When we see the depiction of the general, Tariq ibn Ziyad, from the 14th century Semblanzas de Reyes, Tariq was a Berber, Maula, and he is shown with features consistent with a Mediterranean or diverse North African origin. The ship illustration, used as proof of racial uniformity by without history, actually proves diversity. It shows different complexions and roles, confirming the ethnic mix and hierarchy of the Umayyad world. We must look beyond European sources. We turn to the Arab historians who documented the conquest, like Ibn al-Khatib, al-Maqari, and the Akhbar Majmu'ah. These Arabic sources consistently confirm the invasion force was overwhelmingly composed of Berbers from North Africa, with Arabs holding the command structure. This wasn't an Arab racial movement. It was a Berber military operation led by Arab-appointed officers. The chronicles detail the political motive. The campaign was ordered by the Arab Umayyad governor Musa ibn Nusayr in North Africa as an extension of the caliphate, driven by the collapse of the Visigothic state and the promise of wealth and territory. It was geopolitics, not race. The Christian source, the Chronicle of 754, echoes this by differentiating between the forces as Arabs, Arabes, and Moors, Mari, recognizing the non-monolithic nature of the invasion. The rhetoric of the black as pitch quote is therefore clearly revealed as Christian demonization, not historical fact, used to describe a terrifying non-Christian enemy. The invasion was a calculated political occupation, not a racial purge. The Treaty with Theodemir, 713 AD. This legal document guaranteed religious freedom and civil rights for Christians in exchange for jizya tax. The motive was imperial expansion and revenue, not racial war. The swift marriage of King Roderick's widowed queen, Egalona, to Abdalaziz ibn Musa, the first Arab governor, was a pragmatic act of political consolidation. This showed the new rulers were not interested in extermination, but in absorbing the Visigothic nobility to stabilize and legitimize their new order over the local population. The period immediately following the conquest was defined by limits and civil war, shattering any image of a stable, unified empire. The Battle of Tours, 732 AD. The defeat of the Umayyad army stopped their major expansion, confining Moorish power to the Iberian Peninsula. The Great Berber Revolt, 740 AD. The Berber majority rose up violently against the ruling Arab elite due to exploitation. The two main groups making up the Moors were fighting a bitter civil war, destroying the notion of racial solidarity. The true identity was territorial. The inhabitants were all Al-Andalus, the people of Al-Andalus, a mixed society. The majority was the Muladis, Muwallad, native Iberians who converted to Islam, adopting Andalusi Arabic. The society also included Arab and Berber settlers, alongside Christians, Mozarabs, and Jews, all contributing to a vibrant, integrated culture where ethnicity was secondary to their shared Islamic life in Al-Andalus. Dynastic lineage. The Nasrid kings in the Hall of Kings at the Alhambra confirm this. Their portraits illustrate the long-term, diverse lineage of the final ruling class before the fall of Granada 1492. Finally, let's look at the science. Genetic studies on ancient human remains in Iberia provide the definitive proof. The conquest was a diverse migration event, not a single racial shift. Analysis of Muslim era burials confirms the population was a complex mix. Y-chromosome haplogroups include E1b1b, North Africa, Berbers, J1 and J2, Arabian Peninsula, Arab elite, and R1b, Western European. Mitochondrial DNA includes J1C1b, L3D1, along with dominant H and U variants, Iberian European. The genetic picture is a mosaic. It validates the historical accounts of a diverse population in Al-Andalus. No single racial group dominated the gene pool. To understand the Moors, you have to understand the Ibero-Maurusians. These were the hunter-gatherers of North Africa 15,000 years ago. Genetic analysis shows they were already a complex mix of West Eurasian and indigenous African lineages. This Maghrebi profile was established long before the first Arab or Berber soldier ever stepped foot in Spain. Furthermore, a landmark 2025 study in Galicia just changed everything. It found a significant North African genetic signal, up to 16%, in northwest Spain. The study dates the entry of this DNA to 620-670 CE, decades before the Islamic conquest. This proves a pre-existing genetic bridge of North African migration into Europe that had nothing to do with a racial war in 711. The Moor was never a racial monolith. It was a 1,000-year-old geographic and cultural bridge between continents. From the 8,000-year genomic transect of the Olalde study to the 2025 data from Galicia, the science is settled. The population of Al-Andalus was a vibrant mosaic of indigenous Iberians, Arabs, and Berbers. To collapse this rich history into a single racial label isn't just a distortion. It's an act of erasure. It ignores the Al-Andalus's own records, their legal treaties, their royal marriages, and the very DNA they left behind. The Black Moor narrative is a modern invention that fails under the weight of fact. History is messy, integrated, and complex. To trade that complexity for a slogan is to lose the truth of the very people we claim to study. The hype is over. The science and history of Al-Andalus debunk these long-lasting myths and false notions.